Hey Sadie. So I'm at my wit's end with technology, pretty much. And it's all the worse because you sort of told me this would happen if I tried to use a good camera to shoot one of these. But it's not, I guess, that I didn't believe you. I guess you just have to experience it for yourself in order to truly understand the obnoxiousness of large files and little netbooks or whatever. Um, Anyways, that whole experiment I did last night with using my still camera to shoot video was a failure. I have the files and I said some pretty cool stuff, I guess. But I don't know. They won't load. I don't want to wait 4 hours for them to load. It's not worth it. They're not even that great. Whatever. And I don't want to wait 4 hours for them to load and then find out that they're still messed up. That would be really, really annoying. So I'm just gonna suck it up. And I am going to accept that I don't have those videos to post. I'm going to try to do again what I did. Okay. So the topic was being boring. You brought up being boring on Monday night because you said you've been feeling like you've become a boring person or something, that you're boring, that your interests now are boring, that whatever, that you're boring. And you didn't know if it was being brought on by old age or what. And pretty much what I have to say about that is the first thing that I said in my video that I'll say now is that I think I may have had an effect on you over the last year. I might have rubbed off on you a little bit because the way you're describing the way you like to spend your time now is sounding a lot like how I like to spend my time and how I have liked to spend my time for a while now. And it also, like you said, could be like a mid-20s thing. Maybe it's just something that happens to some people when they get into their mid-20s. They're not as interested in like going out as much or just doing as many, outgoing extracurricular activities. I certainly am not into all that. I know that I enjoy spending a lot of time at home, watching television, or reading, or that's most of it. Or just hanging out with my husband or with you, just hanging out, and just talking and things like that. And I don't think that's boring. I think you can have plenty of fun doing those things. If that's what you enjoy doing, then that's important. It's about embracing being boring. It's embracing your boringness, I guess, if you're gonna insist on calling it being boring. You just have to embrace the boringness and know that you're doing things that are satisfying to you, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I look like I have no arm when I do that. It's kind of weird. What else? So, which I mentioned to you after work on Monday, I also completely know where you're coming from, feeling boring. It's really more of a reflection. It's more of a worry, I think, about what other people think about you than your real feelings about yourself. I think you'd be more comfortable with things you do with your free time if you weren't afraid of what other people thought about how you spent your free time. And I find myself in that situation once every few months or so. I start to think about, for me, it's what my husband thinks. For you, it's what your other friends think, the people who you like to spend your time with. I think you're worried about what they think. And I'm worried about what Lon thinks about me and whether or not I'm interesting enough, if I'm keeping him interested. And I do get afraid, like, every, maybe twice a year, maybe more, I get in this rut where I actually get a little bit nervous that, like, what's going to happen. I think about our relationship in the future, and I wonder if he's going to get sick of me, if I'm going to bore him, like, if I'm just not interesting enough, or I don't do enough. I'm not interested in doing enough exciting things to keep him interested. And that kind of freaks me out every once in a while. But I bring it up, I talk about it, kind of like you're talking about now, because it's kind of freaking you out a little bit. And so I bring it up and we talk, and he always assures me that I'm crazy. And I know it's silly to say that he assures me that I'm crazy, but it is assuring. It is reassuring to hear him say that, that I'm nuts, that there's no problem, that he loves the way we spend our time. He enjoys the quiet time with me, which I think is important. There's a difference, I think, between boredom and comfortable quiet. And I think you're still testing the boundaries of that with different people. Between you and I I hope you'd feel that any quiet time is comfortable quiet time, because usually if we're being quiet, it's because we're watching something, and then I really do prefer that it be quiet, or we're reading or whatever. So when we're not doing those things, I guess we're usually talking about something, or we're looking on the internet at fun stuff. You're always good at finding fun stuff on the internet. Anyways, I feel like I've already been talking for a long time, and I don't feel like I talked about nearly as many of the topics related to boredom that I wanted to. Let me look at my list from the other night. No, yeah. Okay, well, I guess one thing that I was going to say, one of the terms I was going to use was being on, and you don't need to be on all the time. I think you feel a little pressure sometimes to be constantly entertaining, and nobody can live up to that. You have to understand that nobody can be constantly entertaining. And I know it seems like certain people are constantly entertaining, certain people in our lives, but they're not. They're not always on, and that's okay. It makes those more on times more special. I mean, I do know people who are on all the time, and I can say that it's not always the best thing. Sometimes you just want to chill, and people who are on all the time don't know how to chill and can get really annoying. So it's actually probably a good thing. I think you're mellowing, and I think it will present, I don't know, I think it'll be good for you. I think it's a good thing for you. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think your new interests in astronomy and reading and watching shows, catching up on old shows and stuff on television. It's not boring. It's just not as noticeably exciting. Like, they just don't sound as exciting to people. Ooh, you like to read. That sounds boring, but it's not. I mean, anybody who reads knows that reading isn't boring. Anyone who's really into a TV show knows that that's not boring. So, I don't know. I think you're overthinking it. Embrace the boring. Once again, motto, embrace the boring. That's going to be the new motto for this takes effort. Embrace your boringness. Okay, and the last thought that I will go out on is how amused I was in your video when such your serious face and your contemplative state were worried about, whether you were doing enough with your time, and maybe you weren't reading enough, and maybe you weren't watching as much Lost as you should be. And that's the part that I laughed at, was because you were so serious and concerned about whether or not you were watching enough Lost. Great. Good stuff. You do have to finish season 1, by the way, so we can talk about it and start season 2. Anyway, on that note, please continue. What else? Now that I've spoken about boringness, how do you feel any differently about your boringness? I certainly don't think you're boring. I think between you and me we have a pretty darn good time, and it wouldn't necessarily look exciting to other people, but it's exciting to me. Alright, signing off now. I think I've probably talked for 10 minutes. I'm sorry, and I hate that I have another video. That's no good. Alright, that's it. Back to my good old webcam. Alright, good night.